Hey world, what up? We're gonna kick it here on a video on ESPN with Mr. Stephen A. Smith. It's gonna cover with three-time champion Mr. Dwyane Wade, who's covered around 15 to 20 seasons in the NBA, and of course on one franchise, the Miami Heat. Dwyane Wade's gonna go and allude more into LeBron James and the 2020 Los Angeles Lakers championship hopes, and let alone if LeBron James is in that GOAT conversation or is the true greatest player of all time. We're kind of cover more into here. I'll give more of my take. If you've been kind of watching my videos, you pretty much know where my premise is and where I stand on the all-time rankings and what a fourth ring would do for LeBron James. So let's hear with Mr. Dwyane Wade on his side of things and kind of cover in.
NBA championship resides once again in Miami.
I ain't got nothing left. We welcome to the show, obviously, first ballot future Hall of Famer, three-time NBA champion, and now a star on TNT trying to take my job, the one and only D-Wade, Dwyane Wade. What's going on, man? How are you, sir?
Man, listen, I am great. And you know what makes me feel good right now? It makes me feel good that you look as good as you do right now, man. You look spectacular over there. That's what makes me
Pause.
feel good.
I come a long way. I've come a long way from the Hammer Time suits. I know. Let me ask you this question, D. When you look at the Miami Heat, just 48 minutes away from advancing to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2014 when you and LeBron took them there, how you feeling about this right now, this team?
Yeah, the Miami Heat, they're a Cinderella story, no doubt about it. Of course, I'll admit on my predictions, I thought they would lose against the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round. I thought Milwaukee would handle their business with Giannis Antetokounmpo, who would take that next leap since Toronto and the Kawhi Leonard Raptors are no longer in existence. But that wasn't the case. Credit to the Miami Heat. I've always known they were built for the playoffs. I just didn't think they would get past the Bucks. Pretty much, I kind of gave too much credit to Giannis Antetokounmpo and thought too highly of him, but he's got a lot of work to do to get deeper in the playoffs and prove himself as a true star to lead a team. But I'm not going to talk about Giannis. Credit to the Miami Heat. I believe they're around 11-3 or 12-3 in the playoffs. They have a 3-1 to 3-2 lead against the Boston Celtics as of right now. I've always stated I thought it would be the Celtics to beat the Miami Heat in the conference finals. We'll see if they can come back from 3-1. I'm not going to put all my eggs in the basket, but wouldn't surprise me as it is. But kudos to the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler's taking on that number one role with the team that's built specifically around him, and not just him alone, but for young rookies like Tyler Herro. You got young cats out there like Duncan Robinson. You got Nunn. And then you got veterans who are just dogs out there. Like, you brought in Andre Iguodala. You brought in Jay Crowder from the Memphis Grizzlies. And then you bring in just a couple of low-key but great role players like Kelly Olynyk, Myers Leonard. And then you got Bam Adebayo, who's an all-star player. And Jimmy Butler doesn't need to score 20 or 30 a night. This is a team. This is a true team that plays an offensive system. They crack down on the zone defensively, and they've been hammering down every team defensively. They got length, they got size, they got a goal, they got a mission. I still don't believe they're going to win the championship. That's for the Lakers to win it all. But they've been a great story. It's kind of sad that since Dwyane Wade retired last season, and then now his team is pretty much going to be in the finals. But it is what it is. He's happy for Miami. Kudos to them. It's a good story. But I'm very curious to see how Boston responds back in a crucial Game 6. Because if that series goes Game 7, it can go either way.
Man, I'm feeling well. First of all season, and as you watch this team grow, and unfortunately we had a stoppage, but all season you've seen this team, and you knew in the back of your mind they're going to be a tough out for anyone in the playoffs. And once the NBA season resumed and they went into the bubble, it was like, oh, this changes things because it's not about who has home court advantage. This is about who's going to be a dog, and the Miami Heat have dogs on their roster. So, we felt very confident coming into the bubble. And, of course, right now, being up 3-1, we feel confident, but they also understand and know that the job's not finished.
We all expected the Los Angeles Clippers to pretty much be what the Miami Heat were to be. But the Clippers were just talkers. They were barkers, and they didn't actually go out and walk the walk. They pretty much proclaimed themselves as champions whenever they even get the job done with, and they blew a 3-1 series lead to the Nuggets, and let alone the Dallas Mavericks gave them trouble. But if Kristaps Porzingis wasn't suspended game 1, let alone hurt for the last 3 games, the Mavericks definitely would have taken that 7, and they could have taken that series. The Clippers were exposed, but the Miami Heat, they fit in perfectly with each other. It's a weird mix that actually works very well because they're all looking as a team centered together. And we got to credit Eric Spoelstra as a lot of people haven't thrown his name as one of the best coaches, but now they have finally to realize that. But Eric Spoelstra is most definitely a top 5 coach in the NBA today. I would actually have to really evaluate. I'll probably make a video here shortly after the finals about my top 3, top 5 coaches in the NBA. But Eric Spoelstra is definitely up there. And again, on defense, we never see zones out there in the NBA. The Miami Heat brought that back into existence. They don't rely on Jimmy Butler on offense. They pretty much have bought into the system. A lot of star players don't like to do that because they like their usage rate up. They like to have their stats up to be all-star level for their endorsements and, et cetera, et cetera. But Jimmy Butler is very unselfish. He came into a championship culture with Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, and the crew. And credit, you have Udonis Haslem, who's been there for 14 seasons and such forth. But they bought into that championship system. I don't think the Miami Heat are going to win the championship, but they got a great formula for a couple of years, especially with the young cats, especially Tyler Herro, who hit 37.
D-Wade, when you look at Jimmy Butler, we see a guy that came from Marquette. We see a guy that played in Chicago. We see a guy that played in Minnesota. So much of a big deal has been made about you recruiting him to come to Miami. And I'm wondering where the word recruit came in, because did it really take that much to get him to want to depart from Philadelphia and Minnesota and Chicago before that to come to South Beach? What am I missing?
Yeah, kudos to Jimmy Butler. He put a lot on the table to risk. He pretty much was going to be an unrestricted free agent, but he decided to do a sign-and trade to demand to go to the Miami Heat. He could have been comfortable getting paid over $200 million in 5 years on the 76ers, which that team was 1 game away from the conference finals. You have Ben Simmons and Embiid. But he took the risk, and he knew he couldn't win with those cats. And I know he's had a close relationship with him and Dwyane Wade. Dwyane Wade talked about the culture, bringing him into Miami, which recruited him, and Jimmy Butler's fit perfectly, and I'm glad for him. I'm glad for the cat. He's about to make an NBA Finals, and I'm going to have to make another video to really evaluate, the top 10, top 15, top 20 players in the NBA, because if Jimmy Butler makes the NBA Finals, you're definitely going to have to rank him, in a different tier. But I'm not going to go there yet. They still got to finish their business when it comes to it.
Well, listen, if it was you, it wouldn't have took nothing. It wouldn't have took nothing at all.
Absolutely.
I think with Jimmy, I think the great thing about Jimmy, even from, when we got to Chicago, matter of fact, before I even got to Chicago, and I called Jimmy on the phone when D Rose was leaving Chicago, and it was about to be Jimmy's team. And I called him, when I was thinking about going to Chicago, and I asked Jimmy, is this something that, he wanted to do? Because I knew my name coming in was a bigger name in basketball, even though Jimmy was the better player. And from that conversation on, man, Jimmy he's been all about, I don't care about anything but winning. And Jimmy way of trying to get there is not everybody's way. Jimmy came from nothing. He everything he had.
And Jimmy Butler in the fourth quarter has been clutch in all these series. Man, he's looking like, I know a lot of people in 2019 said Kawhi Leonard looked like a reincarnation, a spirit of Michael Jordan, but 2020, Jimmy Butler's taking on that mantle. He's definitely been hitting in the clutch, pulling up, driving in. He's on his flow right now. He's definitely on his groove.
Is self-made, is built, and that's all he knows. So if no one is doing what Jimmy's doing, no one's putting the work in that Jimmy's putting in, no one's playing as hard, Jimmy gonna get on your butt. And Jimmy had that reputation, in Chicago and Minnesota and possibly Philly. But I always knew if there was one place that Jimmy could beat Jimmy and no one is going to care, it could be the Miami Heat, because Pat Riley has a little Jimmy crazy.
I want to transfer to Tyler here.
And a lot of cats, a lot of players, like when he was on the Minnesota Timberwolves, he was on the Philadelphia 76ers and the Chicago Bulls. But Jimmy Butler, they pretty much said he was bad in the locker room, kind of et cetera, et cetera. But Jimmy Butler will get on you. I mean, you had Cat, who was soft. Jimmy Butler called him out. Andrew Wiggins, he called out his work ethic. But Jimmy Butler was placed in a bad position in Minnesota because they were not even a playoff team until he got there. He brought in Tibbs, Taj Gibson, Jamal Crawford, and some veterans. So he had to will that team. He got traded to the Sixers. He had to will Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons because they were very nonchalant. They weren't true leaders out there. So Jimmy Butler had to get on them. And then finally, he made his own decision. Not he was traded. I mean, it was a sign and trade, but Jimmy Butler elected to go to the Heat. And now they finally built a team surrounding him and the culture, which is perfect. Jimmy Butler's a hard A. But with Pat Riley and the crew, they can handle him because he fits, he complements with their franchise together when it comes down to it.
Ask people to describe the Whopper by
We'll kick
heart.
up this ad here real quick.
Pickles, tomatoes, onions.
Me encantan.
I'm getting hungry. Do you guys have a Whopper?
People crave
Overall,
what's
Jimmy
real,
Butler made the
and
right
that's why we
decision to
remove
the
colors,
Heat. Even if they don't
flavors,
make
and
another
preservatives
NBA
from
Finals
artificial
appearance or
sources
not,
from the Whopper.
he
Your
made it
way,
right, though.
way better.
Hero and Duncan Robinson. And the reason why I bring them both up, even though Duncan Robinson only scored 3 points in Game 4 and Tyler Hero had 37, is because Duncan Robinson is a specialist. And when I think about them two together, even before this season began, I fantasized, of course not now, but somewhere down the line, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, these two dudes together got something similar going on there. They could end up being that special for the Miami Heat in the future. How do you feel about it?
Well, listen, Tyler Hero, he was the 13th pick. A lot of cats didn't really know about him. There's some players who called him out to say he's going to be a future All-Star out there. But when it comes to Tyler Hero, he had 37 points in Game 4 when the Miami Heat took a 3-1 series lead. He was, his game complements really a revolutionary style of Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry because he can get you on the dribble like a Trae Young, Steph Curry, but off the ball, he'll come off screens and backhand screens, elevator screens such as like a Klay Thompson. I think he may be better off the dribble than Klay. I got to see more of his games. He's a rookie, but he's really up there when it comes down to it. So Tyler Hero, who's around 19 years of age, born in the year 2000, his confidence level is off the roof. And for Jimmy Butler, I mean, that elevates him and his team as well.
That.
Well, I mean, the only thing they don't have is the swag that Klay and Steph had. Tyler got so much swag, but Duncan ain't get the swag palette, gene yet. But what I love about just being able to watch young guys, I mean, I was there when Duncan first came in, and I remember being in practice in Spo, cursing Duncan out, making Duncan run, whatever is possible when he wouldn't shoot the basketball. And Spo's whole thing was to him is, listen, you're an amazing shooter. Every time the ball touch your hand, I want you looking to shoot the ball. And so Spo freed his mind up and really put him in a situation to win. And his work ethics and the person that Duncan is, it leads to the success that he's having. But when you have the future of a Tyler Hero, a Duncan, a Bam as your core guys, and then you have the veteran pieces like a Jay Crowder, Iguodala, Jimmy, UD, so many that Goran, let me not forget Goran, so many mixtures out there that he have that makes this a perfect storm and a perfect team at this time in the NBA.
Nobody's more
Yeah, egos are not part of an issue of the Miami Heat, which helps them out. A lot of other stars here in the NBA, they got egos, the star players. That's why they pretty much have high ball usage. They're ball hogs, and they want to play their own system, not a team system. But we kind of ended off here on this video on the Miami Heat and Dwyane Wade's perspective of it. We're going to jump into a part 2 next video on Dwyane Wade's take on LeBron James, the GOAT, and the Los Angeles Lakers.